Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the Alienware Aurora R15. We've got this awesome tech review with all the details, and we're going to break it down, and hopefully by the end, you'll know if it's the gaming rig for you.
Yeah, it's a serious machine. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started.
Okay, so first up, the processor. The Aurora has an AMD Ryzen 9 7900X. I know all these names can get confusing, but this is a big deal. So what does this mean for you if you're sitting down ready to play a game?
Like, imagine you're playing a game with a ton of graphics. Maybe something with a huge open world and a ton of action. You know, in the past, you might have had some lag or stuttering, especially when there's lots of explosions or effects.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there. It totally takes you out of the game.
Exactly. But with this 7900X processor that's gone, it's like the smooth highway for all the data in your game. You get super fast response times and smooth gameplay.
So no more rage quitting because the game froze at the worst time.
Yeah.
I like that. But processing powers, that's one part, right? What about the visuals? How does the Aurora handle making those games look amazing?
Get ready to be impressed. This machine has an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 graphics card. It's not just about making things look pretty, though it definitely does that. It also has ray tracing, which is this technology that simulates light to be super realistic. Think about how light reflects in the real world, creates shadows and depth.
Okay, so it's not just about making the game brighter, it's about adding realism.
Exactly. Games look more immersive and lifelike, almost like you're stepping into another world. Imagine playing a game in a jungle. With ray tracing, you'll see the light through the leaves, creating shadows on the forest floor. It's a total game changer.
All right, I'm convinced. But what about storage? Awesome graphics are useless if the game takes forever to load.
Good point. No one wants to stare at a loading screen. The Aurora has a 1 TB SSD and a 2 TB HDD.
So the SSD is like the VIP lane for your favorite games.
Exactly. Think of it like an express lane to launch your games super fast, no more waiting. And then you have the huge hard drive for all your other games and files. It's a huge library.
Speed and space. Best of both worlds.
Oh.
Okay, next up is RAM. The Aurora has 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. Can you break that down for me?
Think of RAM as your computer's short-term memory. When you're gaming or streaming or doing a bunch of things at once, your computer needs to access information really quickly. More RAM means everything runs smoother.
Okay, that makes sense. So 32 gigabytes, like having a brain that can do a million things at once.
Pretty much. And it's DDR5, which is the latest generation. It's faster and more efficient. You'll be able to have tons of applications open, like have a game running and stream your gameplay and chat with friends, all without any issues.
Wow, okay, that's impressive. Sounds like this machine can do it all. So we've talked about the processor, the graphics, the storage, and the RAM. What's next?
Well, all that awesome hardware needs something to run on. Let's talk about the operating system, Windows 11 Home.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that just like the standard?
Well, it has some features for gaming, like direct storage. Have you ever noticed how some games take forever to load, even with an SSD?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes it feels like I'm always looking at loading screens.
Right. Well, direct storage is here to fix that. It's this super fast connection between your games and that SSD, so you can get into your games way faster.
So less waiting and more gaming. What else does Windows 11 have for gamers?
It also has game mode. You might have heard of it from Windows 10, but it's even better in Windows 11. Imagine you're in the middle of a game, and your computer suddenly slows down because of updates or something.
Ugh, the worst.
Yeah, well, game mode prevents that. It makes sure your game gets all the resources it needs, and it minimizes anything that could slow things down.
So it's like telling your computer to focus on the game. I like that. They've thought of everything. But we can't forget about looks. What about the design of the Aurora?
Alienware has always had these cool, futuristic designs, and the Aurora is no different. It's sleek and modern, and it has customizable RGB lighting.
RGB lighting. Now we're talking.
Yeah, and it's not just about looking cool. It can sync with some games to react to what's happening. Like your keyboard could glow red when your health is low.
Okay, that's awesome. It's like your whole setup is part of the game. But can you turn it off if you don't want it?
Absolutely. You can customize the RGB lighting however you want, or turn it off completely.
That's great. So we've covered the processor, the graphics card, the storage, the RAM, the operating system, and even the design. It sounds like the Aurora is a serious machine. But there's still more to explore. We've talked about the specs and the features, but what about actually using this thing? Stay tuned because next time we'll look at the Aurora's real-world performance. We'll look at what users and experts are saying to see if it lives up to the hype.
All right, so let's talk about cooling. You know all those powerful parts we talked about, the processor, the graphics card? They can get really hot when they're working hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a car engine. Things are going to heat up when you're pushing it.
Exactly. And just like a car engine, your computer needs to stay cool. If it gets too hot, it can slow down or even break.
So what about the Aurora? How does it stay cool?
The Aurora has a really good cooling system. It has fans and heat sinks that move the heat away from the important parts.
Sounds good. But is it noisy? Some gaming PCs sound like a jet engine.
That's a good question. From what I've seen, the Aurora is pretty quiet. But yeah, like any powerful PC, you might hear the fan sometimes, especially when you're playing a really demanding game.
So it's not silent, but it's not too loud.
Right. Most people don't mind the noise. Especially since it's so powerful, you could always wear a headset too.
True. So we've talked about performance and cooling. What about upgrades? Technology changes so fast.
That's really important. You want to be able to upgrade your PC over time. The good news is that the Aurora is designed for upgrades. It's easy to open up the case and swap out parts.
So if I want to get a better graphics card or more RAM, I can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of space for upgrades.
That's great. Speaking of upgrades, what about the power supply? I've heard stories about power supplies causing problems.
Yeah, the power supply is super important. It gives power to all the parts of your computer. The Aurora has a really good power supply. It can handle all the demands of a gaming PC.
So I don't have to worry about it failing.
Nope. It's designed to be reliable.
Okay, so we've talked about the hardware, but what about the software? How well does Windows 11 work for gaming on the Aurora?
Oh yeah, we talked about direct storage and game mode. Those features really make a difference. Direct storage makes games load way faster. And game mode makes sure your games run smoothly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like having a dedicated lane for your games. No more interruptions.
So Windows 11 is a good choice for the Aurora.
Yeah, it's a great combination. But let's not forget about visuals.
Right, we talked about the graphics card. But what about Windows 11? Does it do anything for the visuals?
Windows 11 has this feature called Auto HDR. You know what HDR is, right?
Yeah, it makes everything look more realistic.
Exactly. But not all games support HDR. So Auto HDR takes those games and makes them look better. It adds more colors and contrast.
So it's like giving old games a facelift.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a big difference.
I love that. They've thought of everything.
It seems like it.
So we've talked about performance cooling upgrades and even software. It sounds like the Aurora is a really well-rounded machine.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive.
But we haven't talked about design yet.
Right? Alienware always has those cool designs.
What about the Aurora? What makes it special?
The Aurora has this sleek, futuristic design. It has sharp lines and curves. It looks really powerful.
Like a spaceship.
Exactly. And it has customizable RGB lighting. You can make it look however you want.
But is it well built?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's made from high-quality materials. It's built to last.
That's good to know. What about ports and stuff? Is it easy to connect things?
Yeah, the Aurora has plenty of ports for everything you need. And it's easy to open up the case. They've even made it easy to manage all the cables.
So it's both beautiful and functional.
Exactly. They've really thought of everything.
I'm impressed. But every PC has its downsides. What about the Aurora? Are there any things to watch out for?
Well, one thing is that it's a compact design. That means it might run a bit hotter than some other PCs.
So if I live in a hot place or play a lot of demanding games, I might need extra cooling.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Another thing is that Alienware uses some custom parts, so it might be harder to find replacements if you need them.
That's something to consider.
And of course, there's the price.
Right, the Aurora is a premium PC. It's not cheap.
True, but you get what you pay for.
So what about customization? We talked about RGB lighting, but are there other ways to personalize the Aurora?
Alienware gives you a lot of options. You can choose different processors, graphics cards, RAM, and storage. You can build the perfect PC for you.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all PC.
Nope, you have a lot of control.
That's cool. What about after you buy it? Can you still customize it?
Yeah, definitely. Alienware has software that lets you control everything. You can adjust the fan speeds and even overclock the components.
Overclocking. Is that safe?
It can be, if you're careful. It lets you get more performance out of your PC, but it can also make it run hotter.
So I should do my research first.
Yeah, definitely.
What about the outside of the PC? Can you customize that?
Alienware doesn't have a ton of options for that, but there are a lot of modders who make custom parts for Alienware PCs.
So if you're creative, you can really make it your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things. Performance cooling upgrades, software design customization. It sounds like the Aurora is a really impressive PC.
It definitely is.
But we haven't talked about what it's like to actually use it.
You're right.
In the next part, we'll look at user reviews and expert opinions We'll see if the Aurora lives up to the hype. Okay, so we're back. And we spent the last 2 parts really getting to know this Alienware Aurora R15. We've talked about all the specs and features and what makes it so cool. But now it's time for the big question. What's it actually like to use this thing?
I mean, that's what really matters, right? All the tech stuff is great, but we want to know how it actually performs when you're gaming.
Exactly. So for this last part, we've done a ton of research. We've looked at user reviews and expert opinions to see if the Aurora R15 lives up to the hype.
And what did we find?
Well, from what I've seen, it sounds like the Aurora R15 definitely delivers. Users are saying it's fast and responsive.
That's good to hear. But I'm curious, how does it handle different types of games, like shooters or open world games or strategy games?
Good question. It seems like no matter what kind of game you play, the Aurora R15 can handle it. People are saying it runs smoothly with no lag.
That's awesome. So it's a versatile machine.
It really is.
Yeah.
But what about those other things that can affect your experience, like noise and heat? And is it easy to use?
Right. All those things are important. Let's start with noise. We talked about the cooling system before, and it's pretty good. But some people have said that the fans can get a bit loud, especially when you're playing a demanding game.
I see. So it's not completely silent.
Not really, but most people don't seem to mind. And you can always wear a headset.
That's true. Okay, what about heat? Does it get hot?
Again, it depends. The cooling system does a good job. But because it's a compact design, it might run a bit warmer than some other PCs.
So it's something to be aware of, especially if you live somewhere hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what about ease of use? Is it easy to set up and use?
Yeah, for sure. Alienware has this software called Command Center. It lets you control everything, like the lighting and the fan speeds. It's really easy to use.
That's great. So it sounds like they've really thought about the user experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical stuff, but I'm curious. How do people feel about the Aurora R15?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like, is it a fun PC to use?
From what I've seen, people really seem to enjoy using the Aurora R15.
I could see why.
It looks cool, it's powerful, and it's easy to use.
That's like having a high-end sports car.
Exactly. It's a premium experience.
So after all this research, what's the final verdict?
Well, I'd say that the Aurora R15 is a great choice if you're looking for a high-performance gaming PC. But it's not for everyone. It's expensive, and it might not be the best choice if you're really sensitive to noise or heat.
So it's all about finding the right PC for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything. We've gone deep on the Alienware Aurora R15, from the specs to the user experience.
It's been a fun deep dive.
It has. So if you're thinking about getting a new gaming PC, definitely check out the Aurora R15. It might be the perfect fit for you. But no matter what PC you choose, the most important thing is to have fun.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep gaming.